Welcome back in Frankfurt. My name is Marcel Kaiser and I will be moderating the next half of the day. With me is Steffen Hönig and he's presenting on traditional versus crypto assets. Have fun and enjoy.
So hello and welcome to my keynote speech. So I'm with EY Consulting and working there in the technology transformation topics in Germany in asset management. And as this is the first speech after the lunch break, I guess my first priority is to keep you all awake. So let's see how that goes with traditional versus crypto asset management. So if we are looking at the topics we are facing, we have our infrastructure, which is all about the systems and the IT. And then we have the ecosystem, which is with which partners as an asset manager do I work together. And also we have the regulatory and the legal framework, so which is evolving in a positive way in Germany, I would say. So good for crypto and DeFi. And we have the strategy and positioning. So where do I want to be in the future as an asset manager? What is my goal in that new space? So let's look at the different investment universes we have. It's one with different layers, I would say. So basically we have a physical world on top, and on bottom we have a digital world, and they come together. So we have traditional assets we know of, like the real estate, but also securities, bonds, etc. We have commodities. And in the traditional asset management, we bundle them together, and we have an investment fund, a traditional investment fund, and we buy and sell that fund with fiat currencies, which is euro and US dollar. So, and then we go down one level into a hybrid zone where we have security tokens. And these security tokens, they are in essence representations of traditional assets. So it's the same thing with the asset-backed tokens. They can relate to real estate, to a house or whatever. But then what we do, we give them some digital shoes, and with the digital shoes, we are able to run them on a blockchain. So there is one foreigner in that hybrid world though, and that foreigner comes from the DeFi or from the digital world, and that is the cryptocurrencies, like Bitcoin. And these are assets which are born on the blockchain. They don't come from our traditional real world, but from a new world. But what we managed to do is, we basically managed to integrate them into a fund like the way we know funds today. So in a traditional investment fund, we buy new assets coming from another world. And then we are in a setup we know with a traditional investment fund and a new asset type. And then there's a second pair of fund, like we call it the tokenized fund, which will be enabled this year probably. So that means we can tokenize a traditional fund and also make them run on a blockchain. And then there's a new world, the DeFi world, the digital world itself, and this is where assets are born on the blockchain. So they do not relate to our traditional world we know, so they are new. And we have the cryptocurrencies, and I said utility tokens as an example for the DeFi world. And then when we're talking about funds here, we're talking about, let's call them on-chain funds, which are funds which are completely managed on a blockchain. So meaning that still you can have an asset manager or portfolio manager deciding which assets he wants to buy or sell in the fund, but then the whole middle and back office and the operations is basically run on a blockchain, which is fundamentally different to the traditional world or the hybrid zone we know as to today. But I mean, in the future, I mean, these worlds will come together, right? So if we look a little bit in detail about the different types here I mentioned, so we have our traditional world where we have the UCITS and AEFs, so basically the retail funds and the special funds there, institutional funds. We have all the regulation in place, just talking about the regulation in the hybrid zone. Then we have an ecosystem which is running. So, and we have the technology and NAV, so net asset value calculation, which is basically running on the IT side on the well-known platforms like SimCorp Dimension or Xentis Profidata, Temenos Multifonds, etc. And in the front office, we have these systems we all know, Bloomberg, Aladdin, BlackRock Solutions, etc. So this is all in place and working good. And if we take a look at the funds we have, and some of them, they are 70 years old. You can see some examples down below, and still running. So it's really a lot of tradition in the traditional world. So then switching to the hybrid world, we're talking about the institutional funds for special AFs, right? We're talking about the regulation which comes from the traditional world, and then we have some news here. And the first one is, let's talk about the Fondsstandortgesetz in the KAGB, which is opening up the special funds, the institutional funds for investment up to 20% into cryptocurrency, which is actually big news, right? Because it's a new investment class integrated into the regulation. Then also we have the EVPG in Germany, which is then enabling us the tokenization of assets. So, for example, we are allowed then to tokenize BIRA bonds as a first step, and later on, we will be probably this year allowed to digitalize fund shares. So we are waiting there of a decree of the Ministry of Finance in Germany, which will hopefully enable us this year that we can issue digitalized fund shares. And then there's the MiCA in Europe. So the MiCA, and the question is, how is that evolving? It's like the MiFID a little bit. So the question is it like technology neutral? So if it will be technology neutral, it will be good news for crypto and finance, and especially the DeFi world, right? So the ecosystem is developing, and the technology and NAV as well. So the question is, how do we manage the new asset classes, the digitalized assets into the old infrastructure? We have some examples like the Hike Fund, etc. So we know these examples, and it's basically running in our current world with new products. So if we look at the DeFi world on the right side, that's different. So there's no classification, there's no regulation, and it's a blockchain ecosystem. And it's Ethereum, basically, where we have where we can run funds on that blockchain. And basically they are run with protocols which then use smart contracts for the whole calculations of the fund. So for example, you can calculate the pricing, you can calculate the valuation, you can calculate performance fee, etc. So there are different protocols with smart contracts like modules of the funds which can be programmed. And actually we have some examples I would like to mention, like Enzyme Finance, token sets, Yearn is more like strategies, and B-Token. So if you look at them, Enzyme has 100 funds online, I think, smaller NAVs, but very active. Then you have token sets. They already have like a big index on the DeFi world already with a market capitalization of $140 million. So there's a lot going on there. And I mean, how do you buy these funds? You go to the website, you connect your wallet, and you buy it. So different than in the traditional and hybrid world. So if we take one step back and look at the main impacts we have on our current infrastructure, if we want to move as an asset manager into the hybrid zone, meaning trading with tokens or trading with cryptocurrencies, we have like 5 main impact areas here, which I would like to mention. So we have first a connection to a crypto or trading platform. So, and this is somewhere we need to get our coins or tokenized assets, and it's not the traditional exchanges at the moment, but new players. And the second one is we need to transport these new asset types to us as an asset manager. So we have the SWIFT network, fixed protocols, all that stuff which is running now, but still we need to think this is a new type of asset. It's not set up in all these protocols and all these systems. We need to make it happen that we can transport it to us, right? And in the asset manager itself, we are facing similar challenges that first we need to consider what type of asset is a Bitcoin Is it a currency or is it an investment? So there might be different systems which take care about currencies, different who take care about like investment assets. So we need to basically do a new product process and define how do we want to put that asset in our systems and how do we want to process it. Also then, as number 4, we need to look at the custodian. So the custodian needs to basically store the wallet, right? And I think the good thing is today, in the next 3 days, there are a lot of custody and crypto custody speeches here as well. But someone needs to store now our wallet. And this can be our old custodian, or maybe we need a new one. So this is things we need to consider. And also looking a little bit in the future, as an asset manager, I could issue my own digitalized fund shares if I want. If I don't want to trade them over or clear them and trade them over an exchange, I can issue them myself, but I would need then a platform to do that, right? That's another possibility if I don't want to go through a CSD anymore. So then number 5 is the legal and regulatory framework. So my colleagues from the EY law would say this is number 1. But we have to take that into consideration. And as I'm here from the technology consulting side, I put it at number 5. So the question is, where are you now and where do you want to go? I just put 3 examples here of beginner, experience, and pioneer. Like as a beginner, you might be the first time here at the CAC21, which is a great start. So you have a good overview about the topics, but you don't have a strategic positioning of your asset manager defined, and you start evaluating your possibilities in crypto. So the next step might be you analyze your client needs. And actually, I think a very important step is to talk with your clients, because a lot of talk we do in crypto is just about Bitcoin or hyped currency. So, but there's a lot of investment, other investment possibilities out there, right? So probably you need to educate a little bit your client. What are the future possibilities in crypto and DeFi? What can you do there? And then think about your positioning and your strategy. So if you're experienced, you know, oh, okay, other ones are facing the same issues. You're thinking, well, you're well aware of the slides I just presented, and your strategic positioning and key milestones are defined. And maybe you are even about to start a project or are already running a project to define an offering in DeFi and to launch a product. Decide on your solution offering in detail then and define future ambitions. And also you have to do is check your app operating model, how to adapt it to this new asset class. If you're a pioneer, and there are not many, frankly speaking, you're already live with something in the asset management area, in DeFi or in crypto, and you have the commitment internally to be a leader in the future. So you manage your first operational hurdles and you're running, but still you have to evaluate your position because the experienced ones are not sleeping, and you have to think ahead and analyze further possibilities, further products, and further business you could do in the DeFi world. So, and it doesn't matter on which stage you are, beginner, experienced, or pioneer. If you have questions, just reach out to me and I'm happy to help. So what we are doing then with EY Consulting, and actually we are like a multi-dimensional team together with our colleagues in banking, capital markets, asset management, myself, and then also finance and our legal practice. We are looking at these topics like from all angles and supporting in different ways. And there are some things I would like to highlight. We have actually one blockchain.ey.com page where you can log in, it's for free, and you can look at a blockchain explorer, which is a nice tool which can give you like a tracing of the transactions visualized. And also what you can do is you can have smart contracts reviewed if they're compliant to ERC20, etc. So there are really some nice tools online on our website, so we are putting a lot of effort there in as well. And last but not least, I would just to mention that we had a global blockchain summit, you can see here, where you can watch videos as well for different topics like we have here on this conference. And we have a podcast run you can subscribe to. And then tomorrow and on the third day, we have 2 speeches from my colleagues, Jan Rosam, on day 2 about digital assets, implications for financial institution and market infrastructure, and Manuel Klein about the digital euro. So happy to be here and ready to take some questions if there are any.
First off, from my side, Steffen, thank you very much for opening up this segment on digital assets for banking and intermediaries. Currently, we don't have questions for you.
Okay.
But I'll keep you updated on that, I suppose. Oh, now there's a question. I'm sorry. Everything's quite hasty. Okay. So the question from the audience would be, do you know how to treat a fund once you've opened one up? Because there's lots of people who can basically almost anonymously open up a fund on their own, theoretically.
So on the DeFi world, probably, or so the question is on which I mean to open up like a regulated investment fund. In Germany, it's not that simple, right? But basically, if you're on the DeFi world, it's a lot easier, right? You can log into the protocol or log into one of these companies I mentioned below and there to open up a fund. It's well, at least they say it's not that difficult. So that's right, because it's unregulated. So you can basically launch your own test fund. And I think this is a lot what's going on there at the moment, that people trying it out with very small amounts, NAVs, so net asset calculations. So the funds, you can see a lot of very small funds, which looks like, well, I mean, okay, someone is trying out how it works. So exactly, and that I mean, pretty much I would say everyone can do. I mean, you need to invest a little bit, right? You need some payment fees for opening or managing the fund, but basically it's not a big hurdle.